April 28th, 2016. I took this class, one of my communications classes back in 2009, and this was one of the main books for it. I finally found it. It was hiding somewhere in all my stuff. But this book actually goes over semantics, and as much as people like to talk bad about semantics, it's actually language itself that semantics is. It's incredibly important because what you say and how you say it and how all the information transfers from mind to mind is incredibly important. One person says something here, it gets misinterpreted, somebody else perceives it as being something else here. That's everything. It's media, that's your relationships, it's everywhere. For this talk, I want to go over discovering one's bias. This is on page 30 and 31. And I want to go over bias because of the implied meanings. Going over here, this again is the implied meanings between planet and star. When somebody says planet and when somebody says star, there's implied meanings there. With planet, they're small, they're cold or cooler, they're solid and liquid structure or gaseous, there are quite possibly oceans on it, there's quite possibly life on it. They reflect light and they don't radiate on their own. When you look at them in the night sky, they don't twinkle like stars do. And they're not the center of attention. They're in orbit around other stars, and they're spherical. That's the implied meanings behind planet, the word planet. With star, the implied meaning is they're really big and hot. They're shining, they're radiant. They're visible at night, and they twinkle. They don't have to reflect light from anything else. They shine from their own light. There's no life on them because they're too hot. The planets orbit around the star. They're the centers of attention, basically, because everything orbits around them. They're not solid or liquid structure, they're gaseous and plasmatic, and they're spherical. Those are the implied meanings behind planet and star. Now, the reason why I wanted to say this, I'll go ahead and read this little paragraph here for you. The writer, who is neither an advocate nor an opponent, avoids slanting. This is slanting. Except in search of special literary effects. The avoidance of slanting is not only a matter of being impartial, it is even more importantly a matter of making good maps of the territory or experience. Now, when he means maps of the territory of experience, he means, say for instance, you have a map of Disney World. And then you have Disney World, the physical area where there's buildings and people. The map is not the territory. So you look on the map and you see where you're supposed to be, but the map isn't the buildings and the people and the rides and stuff. It has nothing to do with the actual physical area. It's just a map. It's supposed to represent the territory. The profoundly biased individual cannot make good maps. They can't figure out what the territory actually looks like for representative purposes because she can only see an enemy only as an enemy and a friend only as a friend. The individual with genuine skill in writing and in thinking can, with imagination and insight, look at the same subject from many points of view. Now, all we have to do to make this implied star and planet thing make sense in this context is switch the words around. The profoundly biased individual cannot make good maps because she can only see a planet only as a planet and a friend as a star only as a star. The individual with genuine skill in writing and in thinking can, with imagination and insight, look at the same subject from many points of view. And that's what happens in graduate school. The people who get taught planet and star, they automatically get slanted in favor of the previous held beliefs. They can't draw a good map of the actual territory because they're being told what to believe. There are a lot of slanting things that happen to their mind that form their mind, and then they go off into their prospective careers not realizing how biased they really are. And then it says, imagination and insight on the same subject from many points of view. With this, there is a little connecting area, and I put that on the bottom on purpose, just so people can see. The word spherical. That's where they can make the connection. If the object is spherical and it cools and dies, well, it gets smaller and colder instead of being really hot and bright. The plasma becomes solid and liquid material. No life is on it. Well, as it cools and dies, life begins forming on it over many billions of years. It goes from being the center of attention to not being the center of attention anymore, because it then starts orbiting younger, newer, hotter stars. And it stops reflecting, or it stops radiating its own light, which means eventually the star will begin reflecting the light from other hotter hosts. So what it means is that the slanting that occurs in graduate school in astrophysics will never be exposed, because there's too many implied meanings throughout people's entire lives, from the time they're in elementary school to middle school to high school, and even in beginning astronomy classes, they're told repeatedly over and over and over again that a planet is not a star, and a star could never possibly become a planet, yet that is exactly what they are. I don't expect this theory to be accepted in my lifetime. No way. I'm 31. I'll be 91 by the time these people get what's going on. And the basic idea here is you have to watch out for implied meaning. So implied meaning is you take planet and star and you place meaning on them before there's any thinking being done. You have an idea of what they are before you start examining other ideas, and what that does is prevent you from understanding them in the light that they're supposed to be understood. And another really important part of this that actually Hayakawa writes in this book is that even with the very impersonal language of science, it is sometimes very difficult to attain impartiality and to not slant material. There's no way science can fix this problem. It has to do with the implied meanings. The problem is with language itself. That's why these scientists are going to have a hard time explaining what's going on up there. Anyways, I'm glad I found this book, and I suggest buying this book yourself. It has a whole lot of good understanding in here. And I think the motivations for writing it were to prevent what happened to the Germans when Hitler came into power. Is to understand that information can be skewed big time, and it can lead millions of people to their deaths, which isn't very good at all, obviously. Alright, later y'all.